Catwoman's call to duty. Maya Rodriguez practically vibrated with excitement. On her bed, spread out like a fallen feline warrior, lay her Catwoman costume. The sleek, black latex catsuit gleamed under the afternoon sun, the intricate stitching on the mask promising a perfect fit. She reached out, fingertips tracing the curve of a clawed glove, imagining the energy of the convention, the admiring glances, the shared passion with fellow comic book enthusiasts. Today, Maya the Plumber transformed into Catwoman, defender of Gotham and expert at unclogging drains. She carefully laid out the whip, its braided leather cool against her skin. Everything was perfect. Almost. A nagging voice reminded her she hadn't quite nailed the signature Catwoman smirk. Time for practice in front of the mirror. Her cell phone shattered the reverie with a shrill ring. Rodriguez Plumbing, she answered, trying to keep the disappointment from her voice. Maya, darling, it's Mrs. Gable. The voice on the other end was breathless and tinged with panic. The kitchen. The pipe. It's like Niagara Falls in here. Maya's heart sank. Mrs. Gable, a sweet but perpetually flustered elderly woman, was a regular client. A burst pipe wasn't something she could ignore, especially not when it threatened to flood the entire apartment building. Okay, Mrs. Gable, stay calm. I'm on my way. Just try to turn off the main water valve if you can find it. Maya sighed, the image of her convention debut fading fast. With a heavy heart, she began gathering her plumbing tools. Wrench, pipe cutter, Teflon tape, the usual arsenal against aquatic chaos. She eyed the Catwoman costume, a sudden, ridiculous idea forming in her mind. Catwoman, plumber extraordinaire. No, too absurd. She quickly banished the thought. Gotham would have to wait. She grabbed a large duffel bag and, with a furtive glance towards the latex suit, carefully tucked it inside, burying it beneath a tangle of wrenches and pipe fittings. The black latex felt strangely accusatory against the cold metal. As she zipped up the bag, she couldn't shake the feeling that Catwoman was silently judging her commitment. Duty called, though. And duty, unfortunately, wore a tool belt, not a catsuit. She grabbed her keys, her face a mask of resignation. All right, Mrs. Gable, she muttered to herself, let's go wrestle some water. The convention would have to wait. The flood at Gable House. The sight that greeted Maya made her curse silently beneath her breath. Not a polite curse, either. More like the string of aggravated Spanish her abuela used when she burned the rice. Water cascaded from beneath the front door of Gable House, forming a miniature river down the meticulously manicured lawn. Oh, Maya, dear. Thank heavens you're here. Mrs. Gable stood just inside the doorway, wringing a tea towel. Her usually bright eyes were clouded with distress. It's the kitchen sink. It just erupted. Like a geyser, only colder and much, much wetter. Maya stepped gingerly inside, her Catwoman boots immediately submerged in ankle-deep water. The house smelled faintly of mildew and something floral, probably Mrs. Gable's potpourri, struggling to compete with the damp. She picked her way through the hallway, following the sound of rushing water. The kitchen was worse than she'd imagined. Water sprayed from the faucet, which appeared to have detached itself entirely from the sink, aiming a forceful jet at the ceiling. The floor was a swirling mess of soggy tea towels, scattered cookbooks, and floating lemons. I tried to turn it off, dear, but the knob just spun around and around, Mrs. Gable lamented, gesturing helplessly at the offending fixture. My precious Le Creuset. It's probably ruined. And my book club is coming on Tuesday. Maya knelt, ignoring the icy water seeping into her catsuit. The shut-off valves were located in the cabinet beneath the sink, of course. She reached for the first one, her latex gloves slick against the metal. It wouldn't budge. Rust, probably. Or 20 years of neglect. She tried the other valve. Same result. Great. This wasn't going to be a simple fix. And this latex wasn't exactly designed for plumbing. She could already feel it constricting her movements. "Mrs. Gable," Maya said, her voice tight, "do you have a main water shut-off valve for the house?" Latex and leaks. The bathroom was a floral explosion. Wallpaper, towels, even the toilet seat cover, all roses, rendered in shades of pink that made Maya's teeth ache. It was hardly the ideal pre-convention prep space, but Mrs. Gable's kitchen was currently resembling a small indoor swimming pool. Catwoman would have to wait. Maya wrestled the latex out of its bag. The material felt cool and alien against her skin. She tugged it up her legs, the rubbery fabric squeaking like a disgruntled mouse. Each inch was a victory, a slow, airless climb towards superheroic and hopefully, soon-to-be dry glory. "Everything all right in there, dear?" Mrs. Gable called through the door. "You're making quite the racket. Sounds like you're wrestling an alligator." "Just, zipping up." Maya grunted, which was a blatant lie. She was maybe halfway in. The suit clung like a second, suffocating skin, restricting her movements. Bending was out of the question. Breathing deeply was rapidly becoming a luxury. Finally, with a desperate heave, she managed to get the suit over her shoulders. The zipper snaked up her back, a cold metal serpent. Getting it started was another battle entirely. Arms flailing, she managed to snag the pull. With a final, decisive yank, it zipped. Maya exhaled, a rush of stale air trapped inside the latex prison. She stared at herself in the mirror. Or, rather, she stared at the top half of herself. The cat ears were still in the bag. No time for those. She splashed some water on her face, trying to look less like a panicked seal. Taking a deep breath and steeling herself for the inevitable deluge, Maya emerged from the bathroom. Mrs. Gable was perched on a kitchen stool, clutching a teacup and looking entirely too amused. "Well, now," she said, her eyes twinkling. "That's certainly an outfit. A bit drafty for plumbing, isn't it?" Maya, feeling a blush creep up her neck, managed a weak smile. "Emergency situation, Mrs. Gable. Gotta make do." She gestured vaguely at her partially completed suit. "Fashion meets function, you know." Mrs. Gable chuckled, a light, tinkling sound. "I always said you had a flair for the dramatic, Maya. Now, about that leak. Cookies and cosplay. Oh, my dear, you are a lifesaver." Mrs. Gable exclaimed, her blue eyes twinkling as Maya knelt by the overflowing kitchen sink. "And in that ensemble. I must say, you're quite the vision." Maya, in her skin-tight Catwoman suit, grimaced internally. Latex and plumbing were not a match made in heaven. "Just doing my job, Mrs. Gable." She tried to sound professional, but her voice came out a little breathless. "Nonsense. A vision doing her job. Come now, you must have a cookie. Freshly baked this morning. Chocolate chip, of course. My William always said chocolate was the answer to everything." Mrs. Gable bustled over to a ceramic jar shaped like a cat and offered Maya a warm, gooey cookie. Maya carefully took one, trying not to smudge the chocolate on her mask. "Thank you." Mrs. Gable perched on a stool, watching with amusement as Maya wrestled with the corroded pipe. "You remind me of my niece, Beatrice. Always getting into scrapes. Though, I don't believe she ever tackled a leaky sink in, well, anything quite like that." She chuckled, a warm, melodic sound. "Beatrice ran off to be an artist, you know. Painted portraits of dogs, mostly. Made a very good living at it, too." "You wouldn't think," Maya grunted as she finally managed to loosen the stubborn nut. Water gushed out, soaking the already damp patch of latex around her knees. "Almost, got it." "Oh, dear. Are you all right?" Mrs. Gable peered closer. "Such a fetching young woman. William would have adored you. He had a thing for, well, never you mind. You know, my grandson, David, is single. A very nice young man. Works with computers. A bit pale, perhaps. Needs a woman with your vibrancy. Maya, now elbow-deep in the sink, mumbled something unintelligible. The wrench slipped in her gloved hand. Careful, dear. You'll get that lovely costume all wet. Mrs. Gable pointed with a cookie. Though, I must say, it does show off your figure rather nicely. William always said a woman should have, well, that's neither here nor there. David's coming over for supper tomorrow. I could just mention, with a final, triumphant heave, Maya wrenched the old pipe free. Water sprayed everywhere, including a direct hit on Mrs. Gable's face. Oh, my. Mrs. Gable spluttered, wiping her face with a napkin. Well, that certainly woke me up. She giggled. Perhaps David wouldn't stand a chance. The grandson arrives. The taxi coughed to a stop outside Mrs. Gable's Victorian house. David paid the driver, grabbed his duffel bag, and bounded up the porch steps, eager to see his grandmother. He hadn't seen her in almost a year. He juggled his bag to ring the doorbell, a chime that played a slightly off-key rendition of "Happy Days Are Here Again." The door swung open before the last note faded. "David, darling." Mrs. Gable enveloped him in a hug that smelled faintly of lavender and lemon bars. "You're just in time. Come in, come in. We have company." He stepped inside, expecting to see Mrs. Higgins from next door, perhaps, or one of her bridge club cronies. What he saw was unexpected. Kneeling in front of the kitchen sink, surrounded by a chaotic assortment of pipes and wrenches, was a woman clad in skin-tight black latex. Cat ears perched jauntily atop her head, framing a face smeared with what looked suspiciously like grease and possibly eyeliner. The costume, ripped in one knee, looked like it had seen better days. She was muttering something under her breath about a stubborn U-bend. Water sprayed intermittently from the exposed plumbing. David blinked hard. Had he walked into a particularly elaborate performance art piece? Was this some kind of plumber cosplay? "David, this is Maya," his grandmother announced, with a twinkle in her eye that suggested she was enjoying his bewilderment immensely. "Maya, this is my grandson, David. He's visiting from college." Maya twisted around, a wrench still clutched in her gloved hand. "Hi," she said, her voice a little muffled by the black mask. A bead of sweat trickled down her temple, leaving a clean streak on the dark latex. "Sorry about the get-up. Plumbing emergency." David's brain struggled to catch up. Catwoman. Plumbing emergency. Grandmothers. These things didn't compute. Hi," he stammered, completely thrown. He noticed the curve of her biceps, surprisingly defined for someone dressed as a feline superhero. "Are you a professional?" He knew how ridiculous it sounded the moment the words left his mouth. Mrs. Gable chuckled, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Maya is a woman of many talents, dear. Now, David, why don't you put your bag down and make yourself useful? Perhaps you can fetch Maya a towel before she electrocutes herself with that sink disposal." David, still trying to process the vision of Catwoman wrestling with a leaky pipe, numbly obeyed. He fumbled for a towel in the linen closet, his mind racing. This was going to be an interesting visit. Mistaken identities. "It's not, look," Maya began, gesturing wildly with a gloved hand, "I'm a plumber." "Seriously. But I was also about to go to Comic-Con. Hence, this." She tugged at the latex clinging to her skin. It squeaked softly. David's eyes widened. "Wow. That's dedication." He beamed, clearly impressed. "So, the plumbing is part of the performance? A commentary on the subterranean infrastructure of Gotham?" He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Fascinating." Maya groaned inwardly. No performance. The pipes in 3B exploded. Mrs. Henderson called me in a panic. I had to come. This is unfortunate timing. She tried to peel the mask away from her forehead, but the sweat made it stick fast. Unfortunate? I think it's brilliant. David exclaimed. The juxtaposition of the mundane and the theatrical. It's very postmodern. He pulled out his phone. Do you mind if I take a picture? For my blog. I write about performance art. Absolutely not. Maya yelped, instinctively covering her face with her gloved hands. Latex crinkled loudly. This is a disaster. My convention is going to be packed by the time I get there. And I smell faintly of sewage. David lowered his phone, his expression softening. Oh. I see. You're not happy about this. He seemed genuinely contrite. You looked so committed. I assumed it was intentional. Committed to a rapidly flooding kitchen, maybe, Maya muttered, pulling a wrench from her tool bag. The metal glinted under the harsh fluorescent lights of the hallway. Look, can we just focus on the sink? The faster I fix it, the faster I can go wash this suit, and try to salvage my day. He nodded eagerly. Of course, of course. Lead the way, Catwoman Plumber. I'm intrigued, to say the least. He followed her into the apartment, a sheepish grin plastered on his face. The air inside was thick with the smell of damp drywall and something vaguely metallic. Maya sighed. This was going to be a long afternoon. Pipe dreams and pizza. Maya wrestled the wrench, the cold metal biting into her gloved hand. Water sprayed in her face, plastering stray strands of black hair to her forehead, already slick with sweat. Catwoman, she thought wryly, was never meant to plumb. Almost, got it, she grunted, the final twist silencing the geyser. A sigh of relief escaped her lips, followed by a triumphant, yes. Mrs. Gable clapped, her silver bracelets jingling. Oh, you are a marvel, dear. A true marvel. I was picturing the entire kitchen flooded. She bustled over with a floral patterned tea towel. Here, let me help you dry off. Thanks, Mrs. Gable. Maya wiped her face, smearing a bit of black eyeliner in the process. She looked like a raccoon version of the feline fatale. David, who had been hovering in the doorway, finally ventured in. His eyes widened. Wow. You, really went all out for this plumbing gig. He gestured vaguely at the dripping latex suit. Maya rolled her eyes. Long story. And definitely not waterproof. She peeled off the gloves, revealing hands reddened from the cold water and exertion. Need a hand cleaning up? David asked, grabbing a stack of paper towels. He started mopping up the puddles on the floor, a surprisingly efficient look on his face. I wouldn't say no. Maya examined the repaired pipe, making sure it was secure. You know, this was supposed to be my day. Comic convention. Big cosplay event. Catwoman, right? David grinned. I guessed. Pretty impressive dedication. Dedication or delusion? Jury's still out. Maya laughed, the sound lighter than it had been all morning. Honestly? I'm kind of over it. All that posing, all that sweating in this ridiculous suit, pizza. David suggested, without looking up from his mopping. Pizza. Maya echoed. Yeah. Forget the convention. We could order a pizza, watch a terrible movie, he shrugged, his cheeks flushing slightly. Just a thought. Mrs. Gable, who had been discreetly observing them from the corner, beamed. Oh, that sounds lovely. I'll call for a pizza. Pepperoni and mushrooms, your favorite, David. Maya looked at David, then back at the leaky pipe, then at the stained Catwoman suit. The convention suddenly seemed very far away, and very, very unappealing. Pepperoni and mushrooms sounds perfect. She grinned. Deal. Masks off. Maya wrestled with the last of the latex, peeling the costume from her shoulders with a frustrated sigh. This damn thing is going to be the death of me. She tossed the Catwoman suit onto a chair, a deflated shadow of its former glory. The wig followed, landing askew, the sleek black strands a stark contrast to the vibrant blue streaks now visible in her own hair. Right, she muttered, grabbing a t-shirt and jeans. Plumbing it is. David stood awkwardly in the doorway, a pizza box clutched in his hands. He'd pictured a sultry cat burglar, not this. This girl, with her bright hair and exasperated expression, felt far more real. Pizza, he announced, holding it out like an offering. Figured you might be hungry after, saving the day. Maya grinned, the tension easing from her face. Starving. Come on in. Sorry about the, outfit explosion. She gestured vaguely at the discarded costume. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the aroma of pepperoni and melted cheese filling the small kitchen. David watched her, fascinated. So, he began, Catwoman, huh? Big comic fan? Maya laughed, a genuine, bright sound. You have no idea. But not just comics. Sci-fi, fantasy, anime, you name it. Today was supposed to be my day to shine at Comic-Con. Wow, David said, surprised. I thought. I don't know, I guess I thought you were, like, dominatrix or something. He cringed. That came out wrong. Maya burst out laughing again, spewing a mouthful of pizza onto the table. A dominatrix? Seriously? She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. I'm a plumber, David. A cosplaying, comic-obsessed plumber, but a plumber nonetheless. David's cheeks flushed crimson. The outfit, the urgency. I jumped to conclusions. Guilty of the same, I'm afraid, Maya admitted, picking at a stray pepperoni. I saw the fancy car, the slightly bewildered expression, and pegged you as some rich kid who'd flooded his apartment trying to make ramen. They both laughed, the sound echoing in the small kitchen. The air felt lighter, the initial awkwardness replaced by a shared sense of amusement. So, David said, taking another slice of pizza. Tell me more about this Comic-Con. A plumbing romance. The last slice of pepperoni pizza was gone, and Maya felt a contentment bloom in her chest that had nothing to do with greasy goodness and everything to do with the man across from her. Even in his slightly bewildered state, David was interesting. Most people would have run screaming from a woman dressed head to toe in black latex, tools strapped to her thigh, talking about P-traps and pressure regulators. But he'd just tilted his head, a curious glint in his eye. So, she said, licking a smudge of tomato sauce from her finger. As fascinating as plumbing emergencies and masked vigilantes undoubtedly are, I really should be heading to the convention. Right, Catwoman, he said, a smile playing on his lips. I almost forgot. Although, you're a much more practical Catwoman than I imagined. I always figured she hired someone for her plumbing. Maya laughed, the sound echoing in the suddenly quiet kitchen. Mrs. Gable had excused herself a few minutes ago, claiming a sudden need to rearrange her spice rack. Maya suspected she was giving them space. Well, someone has to unclog the Batcave's drains. A comfortable silence settled between them. Maya started gathering her tools, the metallic clang a stark contrast to the earlier easy banter. Hey, David said, stopping her. Would you maybe want to, I don't know, grab coffee sometime? Minus the costume and the overflowing sink. Maya's heart did a little flutter kick. I'd like that. Very much. She pulled out a business card, smudged with a bit of grease, and handed it to him. Call me. And don't worry, I don't bite, unless you ask nicely. She winked, enjoying the way his cheeks flushed a delicate pink. As Maya slung her tool belt over her shoulder, Mrs. Gable reappeared, a conspiratorial glint in her eyes. Everything settled, dear. Sink behaving itself. Like a charm, Mrs. Gable, Maya said, her smile genuine. Wonderful, wonderful. David, be a dear and walk Maya to her car. She shooed him towards the door with a flourish. Outside, the evening air was cool against Maya's latex-clad skin. Thanks for the pizza, she said to David, feeling a sudden pang of regret that she had to leave. My pleasure. I'll call you, he stammered, then grinned sheepishly. Unless the Batcave implodes before then. Maya laughed, the sound lighter this time. I'll keep my utility belt handy. She slid into her van, the worn seat conforming to the shape of her costume. As she pulled away from the curb, she caught a glimpse of Mrs. Gable in the window, a wide, knowing smile on her face. Maya grinned back, a feeling of anticipation bubbling inside her. Maybe, just maybe, this plumbing emergency had turned into something more.